Okay, I think I'm live right now.
All right, let me.
Not sure if anybody's on or can't actually see whether anybody's on this yet. So let's give it a second or two.
Well, I can see you, so
You
that
can.
you
That's
are
good.
indeed live.
That's good. I've got one, two, got a couple of
We have
viewers.
two people watching, but it could be us.
It could be, it could be us. That's true.
Oh, we definitely have at least one.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Jessica, how are you? Thanks for joining. Sounds like you've got a question already, so feel free to ask that question whilst we're waiting for other people to join. Did you want to just fire your question in on the chat?
And Bazil says he's here too.
Oh, good. Hey, Bazil. Good to kind of see you. Kind of. This is all a little bit strange for us, so if it's a bit awkward, I apologize. So, Jessica, I think if you've got your first question, sort of fire away. Put it into the comment. Kyle, who's our one of our account managers, is going to be moderating the whole of the session.
So we have what she said was, Jessica Darling says, what happens if you arrive at the theater and the person has never heard of trailer checks and doesn't believe you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm actually going to take that question first and just quickly answer that. And I actually have got some words that I wanted to cover at the beginning. But if you do arrive at the theatre, it could happen that they've never heard of us. But I will tell you that the clients we work with have sent out special information to most of the circuits that we go to. And when we sort of say that the clients choose the circuits, that's why, because they've told certain circuits about movieMEASURE and the fact that they're partnering with us. So you shouldn't have an issue. If you do have a problem, a couple of things I would say. One, make sure you don't get into an argument, because getting into an argument is the worst thing that can happen. Number two, call the support line or email somebody. We'll get back to you straight away. If you call up and tell us, that you've got a problem, and we've had this recently, we had it a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, you can, we'll speak to the manager. Sometimes they want the letter of authorization emailed over to them, and we're quite happy to email them the hard copy. We prefer to email it to the theatre. It's not because we don't trust you specifically, but we have had a few people try to abuse the fact that they can get into the movie theatre for free. And so we have to be a little bit careful. But I would say that's what I would do. I would call the support line or email us. And if you've got my cell phone, you can always call me as well, because I'm always working on those checks. And we'll speak to the manager or the theatre staff, and hopefully they'll let you in. If they don't let you in, what we ask you to do is see if you can get their name. What we do with that is we then report that back to the studio to say, we had Jessica turn up at a certain location, she was refused, and as a result, we weren't able to get the data for that location. And then what they do is they then speak to corporate. Let's just say it was an AMC. They'll speak to corporate at AMC and then let them know that theatre manager needs to allow us to come in next time. So it's kind of frustrating if you're not let in, but I would certainly say keep calm about it and call us. So hopefully, Jessica, that helps you with that question. I'm actually going to start a little bit. We've had a few more people join, and I want to sort of respect the time that people have got, particularly since you've all dialed in. So I'm Rakesh. I guess I'm the CEO and the co-founder. Alison Silver's the other co-founder. I want to explain a little bit about the company, how we started, talk a little bit about what we do, explain more around the relationships between the studio and the theatres, which is why you all exist and what you do, and then talk about the processes that we follow, and something that we speak about quite a lot in the firm is talk about what happens when you finish your task at the theatre, because there's, that's just the start of what actually happens. And I've been meaning to sort of write something to everybody to explain it, but I haven't had that time. So this is a good chance to at least explain some of what happens. Kyle Strock, one of our account managers, based out in Albany, is online. He's moderating for us today. But Kyle is another person that you probably know from either the support calls or emails. And we have a team in Albany that does the scheduling and does some of the other management that we have around installs and ads and trailer checks. And we have some people in LA who are quite close to the studios. And then myself and Alison are based in New York. I'm not in New York at the moment. I'm actually in London, not wanting to sort of sour the note, but my father just passed away about 2 weeks ago. And so I ended up having to be here at short notice. And so I've ended up staying here because the service isn't until next week. So it's pretty late here, but we're still working New York time, so it's not a problem. So let me start a little bit about how we started the firm. Alison and I came up with a concept of MovieQ. MovieQ is like Shazam, but for movie trailers. And the idea was that, when people turn up at the movie theater, they tend not to remember the trailers at play. And as a result, the studios are advertising all of the movies, and not everybody remembers the movies that they want to watch. So we built this app. You could tag the trailer as you do with movieMEASURE, and it would recognize the trailer, put the release date in your calendar, and then when the tickets were available, it'll help you buy a ticket. And we got some good traction with the studios, and they liked the idea, and we helped them do a few things. But a couple of the studios came to us and said, actually, you could take that concept and help us with trailer compliance, because that's a problem that we have. And if you can match the information quickly and get us the data fast, we think that could be interesting. And so we spent about a year to 18 months building a platform, and then talking to the studios and some other people, and they liked it. Now that's developed into trailer checking. We now do advertising checking, and some of you are part of the ad team, where we check the ads that come out before the trailers. And so if you realize you've got the sort of the first shows, the first looks or the pre-shows, then the trailers, and then the movie, we check those ads and we check trailers. We also do interviews in the lobbies, where we're sort of interviewing individuals and checking on various criteria that some of our clients give us. And of course, another big piece of what we do is installations. And so the installs is a big piece of our platform. And we'll probably have some separate Facebook Live sessions around around installs and ads, which I think will be interesting to share some more details about that. And Clarissa, one of our other sort of managers in the team in Albany, has been great at cross-fertilizing the trailer team into installations. And so quite a few of you have been involved in the missing link piece that we've just done recently. I talked a little bit about the studios, but I wanted to share the relationship that exists between the studios and the theaters. And so, if you think about the studios creating product, which is creating a movie, and then passing that off to the theaters to be able to show their product, there's a conversation and relationship that they need to develop. And one of the big things is around the trailers that have to play. And so there's a process that the studios and the theaters follow around curating the list of trailers that play before any movie. And obviously there's more studios than there are places to play the trailers. And so some people get placement, some people don't. Some of the studios buy placement, some people get it based upon their relationships. And what we're asked to do is go out and check to see whether the theaters are fulfilling the commitment that they make to the studio. So if they say that they're going to play a particular trailer on every screen that happens, then they want to make sure that happens. And the only way to do that is to physically go in and check those screens. And so there's a whole process that we work through with our clients to agree the list of theaters that we're going to go to. And then we allocate people. We'll talk about that in a second. And then you go out and perform your work. And then that information comes back to us. We amalgamate it and merge it and cleanse it, and then send it out to the studios for them to look at. And they can see very quickly whether you know, an AMC or a Regal or a Cinemark or a Marcus or a Harkins or whichever the circuit is, has actually met the commitment that they said. And that's hugely powerful for them, because then they can tell that the theatres have actually agreed and done what they said they would. And of course, that doesn't always happen for lots of different reasons. And when it doesn't happen, the studios will speak to corporate and ask them to fix it potentially. And that's when we ask you to go back and recheck. And so when you see that concept of can you recheck, we give you 24 hours, because that gives the corporate offices 24 hours to fix the issues and then get back on track. So that's kind of generally what's happening. I talked a little bit around the scheduling. You know, we get told the theatres that we need to look at. We obviously try to make sure that we're giving the same people the same theatres for a few reasons. I mean, one, you become familiar with the theatre management. They become familiar with you. You understand the layout of the location. So if you need to run between auditorium 4 for a 10 a.m. and then auditorium 15 for a 10:30, you know exactly which escalator you need to get to, or whether you're going upstairs or downstairs. It just becomes more familiar. So we try to give you the same locations. Doesn't always work out, but that's what the perm assign concept is. And then obviously we get that information out to you as fast as possible. We try to get those people assigned early in the week. So, you know, Monday is a big piece, but we're getting people assigned for the Friday work. But you'll also notice from the conversations you're having with the scheduling team that, you know, we try to schedule maybe a couple of weeks in advance so that you can get a jump start on exactly what you're going to be doing. When you actually turn up at the theatre, and we'll come back to some of the concepts here, but when you turn up at the theatre and you perform the task, I wanted to explain a little bit about what happens when you finish. And so when you complete the task or complete the assignment, that information comes straight back up to us, and we can see it straight away. And then either between Kyle or David in LA, or, you know, Clarissa or Nicole or myself or Alison, we'll be looking at that information. And we look for a few things. So we'll look to see whether, you know, did the person turn up on time? If there's a 10 a.m. showtime, did they turn up before 10 a.m.? We can see that based upon what you do in the app. If you've turned up after 10 a.m. and the showtime was at 10, you won't have caught all the trailers. It's just not possible. A, because you need to get through the theatre management, and B, you need to capture a little bit of information like the audience measurement. So the chances of you capturing the trailers is slim to none. That means that 10 a.m. check almost becomes redundant, because you may have missed a trailer that was the one we wanted to see. So that's a problem. So the first thing we look for is, did the person arrive on time? We then look to see whether you actually captured the information around the show times and the formats of the auditorium. So are you going in to check a 2D screen or a 3D screen or an IMAX or a Dolby? You know, did the person actually capture that information? Because that's super important. And the reason that's important is that the studios and the theatres may have different commitments about what's going to play depending upon the format. And so if we don't get that right, we can't then go back to the studio and tell them whether they actually had their trailers played properly. The next thing we'll look at is to see whether the number of trailers that you've caught in your task are complete. AMCs generally will play 7 or 8 trailers. On a big movie like Marvel that you saw last week, and we're doing again this weekend, there were 9 or 10 trailers playing. And the reason for that is because it was such a big movie, they knew that they could advertise a lot more. I don't want to get into the business end of it because I'm not the expert on it, but I'm sure they realized that they could actually play more trailers because they were going to get more eyeballs, and then that worked very well. So some of you would have been catching 9 or 10 trailers. Some of the smaller circuits would have been maybe doing 2 or 3. ArcLights do 3. Regals may do 6, 7, or 8, depending on what's happening. So we look to see whether you've caught all the trailers. The next thing we'll be looking for is the method in which you caught the trailers. Now, as you know, you can capture things manually, and that'll be from a list, or our preference will be that you've used the automatic listening feature. And the reason for that is that A, it's fast, B, it's completely accurate, and C, it gives us a sequence of what's happened rather than you capturing things manually. So when we when we talk to you, sometimes we do over text or email, and we'll ask you how you've captured the information. When it's automatic, we can get a much better picture of actually what's happened in the auditorium. When it's manual, sometimes people will write things down on a bit of paper, they'll come out, and then they'll just key that into the app in the sequence that has happened. But you can see that you've lost a little bit of the information there. And so where possible, we really want you to use the automatic feature. And one tip that I'll give you, because I've heard this back from a few people, is when you get into the automatic piece, switch off all of the other apps that you have on your phone, including Facebook or Instagram or Spotify or Panda, any of the music apps, because as you know from some of the other things in the news, they do use your microphone, and you don't know it. And so when they do that, sometimes they don't release it, and we need the microphone in order to listen to what's happening. So if you find that you're in the theatre and it's not working, it might be because you've got some app open, and you should just clean those out before you start. So just recapping, once you've done all that, we've checked the information, you've arrived on time, we think you've caught all the trailers, we can see that the timestamps make sense, and we'll look to see whether the target trailer that we might be looking for is actually in that pack. Just because it doesn't play doesn't mean to say that's a problem, because it doesn't play on every screen. And I don't want anybody to try to second guess what's happening. I mean, this is something we talk about a lot. Should we tell you which target trailer we're looking for, or should we not? Where there's versions of it, we need to tell you that. And the versions I'll come back to in a second, because you need to be able to decipher which one's which. But essentially, we need to make sure that all of the trailers are captured. So it's really important that you're there for the full sequence. And recently, we've had a few people, especially with the 3D movies, have actually got up and left when they tell you to put the glasses on. And they do that when they're running some 2D trailers and then a couple of 3D trailers at the end. And obviously that last bit at the end is not when the movie's finishing. Excuse me, when the trailers are finishing, they've still got a couple more. So just be aware, only get up and leave from the auditorium when you know the movie has started, not when you think it's about to start. One other comment I would just make, and this happened last week, is that when it's really busy, and tomorrow again, if people are checking tomorrow or Saturday, it's going to be really busy again, don't sit down. You're probably going to be taking someone's seat. Someone's going to come in and get quite upset with you. Sometimes they'll call theatre staff and ask you to be ejected. That happened recently. It's just best to maybe just avoid that. So what we do say is, if it's really busy, don't take a seat. Just stand on the side, out of people's way. The app will work as long as you're in the auditorium. If you can hear the sound, it'll be fine. You don't need to be sitting down, and you can do all of your work without getting interrupted. Because if you get interrupted and you miss even one trailer, back to what I said at the beginning, that almost invalidates the data that we've got. In terms of some of the issues that we see on check day, I mean, these are just a few things that I'll just comment on. Once we've scheduled people, and we will probably schedule over 600 locations if we can. Not showing up on the day hurts us. I mean, it's a problem. It's it affects the fact that we've given that location to you, and if you don't show up, we've not given it to somebody else, because we have more than one person wanting to take each of the locations, and so that's a problem. And so we really need people, if they've taken the location, to show up. Now, we realize that people have issues. There'll be weather problems, or your car breaks down, or people's children are sick, or you're sick. We recognize that, and we'll obviously accept those excuses. But I'll tell you that we've had the same excuse from some people, someone, over three weeks. And at that point, you sort of start to say, I don't think this person's serious around what they're doing. And so what we'll do is just not schedule that individual. And so, we need to be quite ruthless around it, but we will be understanding around people having issues. So communicate with us as much as possible, and tell us that you can't make it as soon as you know that you can't make the trailer check. Especially recently, I think we're asking people to plan their visit. It's really important that we have all of the information captured. I've talked about capturing all the trailers in a particular screen, but it's also important to capture all the screens that we need to get at a particular theatre. And this causes, it causes confusion, and I get it. It's caused us confusion. So, why wouldn't it cause everybody else confusion? But, the way we try to explain this is that we want you to capture, we want you to audit every screen that's playing the movie, and we need to make sure that you're capturing every format. Now, something like Marvel is going to be playing in every format possible: 2D, 3D, IMAX, Dolby, RPX, pretty much, you name it, it's probably playing in that format. Something like Medea, played in 2D. It didn't play in, I don't think it played in 3D. I think maybe it was 2D and maybe in Dolby, or maybe 2D and maybe 2D and Dolby is all it played in. It certainly wasn't in 3D. And so depending upon the feature, the complexity of what we're doing changes, and that complexity changes the amount of time you may spend at the theatre and the number of screens you need to do. And so with something like Marvel, people are spending a long time at the theatre. With something like Medea or What Men Want or something else, it's a lot less in terms of times that you need to spend. And as a result, you may be able to pick up more theatres in the sort of the Czech weekend that we have. So that's why sometimes things will be a little bit different. And so next weekend, I'm not sure what we're checking, but next weekend it will be different to Marvel.
Next week is going to be Us.
Oh, thank you very much, Kyle. Yeah, next week is Us. Not Kyle and me, but the movie Us. So
Peele's Us.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Planning your times, checking in. We're trying to change some. We actually changed something today by trying to send out the number of screens and the tasks that we think you're going to get. Now, I'm going to tell you that model that we've got, that algorithm, is still being refined, and even just whilst we've been talking, I've seen a couple of emails come in from a few people saying, hey, you've told me there are 7 screens to check. I think there's only 6. And so keep sending us that stuff, because we'll keep sending it off to our tech team, and they'll refine the model and get that more and more accurate. But at least that there's 6 or 7 screens to check, not 1 or 2, or not knowing at all and turning up and suddenly finding that you allocated 2 hours at the theatre, and actually you need to spend 3 hours there. And so we're going to try and send you that on the Thursday, so you have that information in advance. And thank you for a few people who have sent in some thank yous for that. And I actually wanted to give a shout out to Laurie, who I think was the lady who actually suggested that we do that, because we gave it into the theatre check-in, and we realized people were checking in early to then find out how many screens they had. And the checking in is actually one of our control points that we see. We like to see where you've checked in, and we started seeing people checking in from their home, which isn't what we want you to do. So anyway, we're going to change that in the next release. I've talked about the number of tasks, talked about capturing all the trailers. I've talked about automatic versus manual versions. So that trailers come out many months before the film is released. And as that film develops and tracking happens, and they start to showcase it and research it with different audience groups, they may change the way the trailers are cut and maybe feature certain things and de-emphasize others. And so different versions of the trailers will come out. And the studios want to know that the theatres are playing the right version. And the filmmaker wants to know, if they've come out with a new version, that the right version is being played. And so the versions are really, really, really important. Sometimes the versions are really easy to spot. In some case, I'll have somebody speaking something, and in the other version, it'll be some other sound, and it's very easy to spot the difference. In other cases, like we had with, I think, The Breakthrough, the versions were really subtle. It was the number of drowning sequences that you had to count at 45 seconds into the trailer. And that's hard. And so we realize that's hard. And so we want to make sure that you understand that as much as possible. We're all up for ideas as to how we can improve what we give you. But we are going to be improving the app to actually try to automatically work out those versions for you. So, watch out for that, because that'll change quite a few things in terms of how you interact with the app. if we can tell you the versions automatically. So that's going to be a huge improvement. Incomplete tasks is another one I just wanted to touch on. Because of the number of tasks that we're setting in the app, and we're asking people to make sure they complete that, we found that some people can't complete the tasks, especially if we've not got the algorithm right. I know that causes frustration, but I'm going to tell you it doesn't cause a problem for payment, because once you submit your information, even if you don't complete the task, we can still see it. And so we see all of that data, we can look at it, we review it, we call it QC, we QC it, and now you'll see that once we QC it, you get an automatic email now saying, hey, your data was approved, it's going to be okay for payment. And so if you don't see one of those emails, that's when you need to be concerned, and feel free to email us and say, hey, you didn't QC my data, what happened? Last week I started to see people emailing me on Friday saying, hey, you didn't QC my data. We had I don't know, something like 2,600 screens checked last week. There was a lot of information to look at, and so we definitely got backed up, and we ended up sort of getting through the rest of the week. And then there were a few people, and some of you may be on, some of you may not be, who didn't get through their task, and we didn't QC that information because it wasn't client ready. And so in those cases, we can't pay those people because they haven't completed the task. But believe me when I tell you, we want you to complete your task. We want to do everything we can to help you, because we want to pay you, because when we pay you, that means we can use that information, and that means the client's happy. So it sounds weird, but we really want you to be successful. We're not trying to catch you out. We're not trying to trick you. We don't want you to fail. And so if there's anything we can do to help you on that, please let us know. The audience measurement piece varies. Some people are meticulous about what they provide us. Some people are quite relaxed. For the moment, I would say it's quite subjective. Don't get too stressed about that. We will be changing that in the future where it becomes more precise. But for now, we just want to get an indication of what's happening in the theatre. I did talk about installs. I talked about ads. We will have separate sessions about that. But I would just say on installs, Carl wanted me to remind everybody that when you get an installation project and we give you a deadline, don't wait for the end of or get close to the deadline to then complete it. Because if there is an issue, you'll run out of time. So try to go as early as possible and get that done. And if you have any problems with an installation, you need to call us, because when you think about it, the studios have paid hundreds of dollars or sometimes thousands of dollars to get that particular standee built, and they trust us, or they trust you to build it. And if it doesn't get built properly, or you're not sure about it, and you try to make it up, it doesn't always work. And if it doesn't work, the theatre who are hosting that standee will probably throw it out, and that's a real problem, because the theatre doesn't have the movie marketed, the studio loses the standee and therefore loses the money. We don't get paid as a result of that, and you get frustrated because you expect to be paid because you went and spent the time. So the whole process breaks down. So if there's something we can do to help you prevent that, we're going to do it. And we have people who are expert in helping people with installation. So call us, don't be afraid, ask for help, and we'll help you. The last couple of things I'm gonna just touch on, because we're getting close to 30 minutes, is on the technology. Number one, we're constantly trying to improve the app, and I think I really want to be able to share more of that with you. So as we have more features come out, we'll want to share that with all of you, and even get more information and feedback back, so that we can add things that you specifically want to see in the app. So look out for that. We'll be sending some stuff out and getting people to comment and provide us some information. The last thing I'm going to mention is something called the ICAP. It's called the Installer Checker Assignment Portal. At the moment, as I said, the scheduling happens with us calling you, knowing which theatres you want to go to, and then setting you up. We want to make that self-service, and so we're going to be creating a website for you to be able to go into We'll let you know when assignments are available. You'll be able to go in and choose the locations that you want to go and audit. Obviously, if you're permanently assigned to something, you'll have a preference. Those locations will be allocated to you, unless you tell us that weekend that I'm traveling, or I've got an appointment or something else, and then we'll open it up to everyone else. Otherwise, those locations will be yours, and then the rest of the locations will be available for other people to pick up. We feel that that's going to be much more effective, because you'll be in control of what you're doing. You'll be able to see which sites are available. And we feel once you're in control of it, the accountability and the commitment there will be stronger. And so we're close to being able to release that. We're going through some final tests, and we'll probably begin to release that probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks, to a small group of you, just to make sure that it's going to work. And then we'll roll it out to everyone, and then get it live for one of our projects in the coming weeks and month. So that's kind of all I wanted to say, other than we've got work this weekend. The 15th and the 16th, we're doing Marvel again. I think some people have asked us, why are we doing Captain Marvel again? Well, Captain Marvel again because Captain Marvel did so well last weekend. And the studios want to check to see exactly what's happening in the second week. Are they still having their trailers up? Are the theatres holding their commitments, or are they giving them out to other people who have actually bought some placement in week 2? So it's going to be interesting over the next couple of days to see what the results are. So I'm going to stop there and see if anybody's got any questions. Carl, I haven't really been looking at the commentary. So is there anything that people want to specifically ask or talk about?
Yeah. So our first of all, I want to thank Bazil. He's been not asking questions, but he's been offering some tips and tricks in the comments, such as bringing an external battery and maybe possibly putting your phone on battery saver mode, and then plugging it into the external battery so you can get through 4 or 5 hours of trailer checks. One of the questions was, do you get some audio recording during the automatic check?
So the way it works is that, the way that the app works is that when you press listen, it opens up the microphone. It'll capture somewhere between 3 and 5 seconds of the audio, and then it compress in the app. It will compress it and then send it over self-service, so it doesn't use very much data. It comes over to our servers. We decompress it. We check it against our database. We match it. We get rid of the audio because we don't need it anymore, and we send you back the movie name. And so at no time do you have the audio in your phone. You can't access it. We can't access it. And we feel that's an important design. And we've explained this both to the studios and to the theaters to help them understand that there's no piracy issues being contravened or having any problems with that. So there's no audio recorded at all. And just on that point, please don't record anything on your phone. That's a big no-no. And please don't take any pictures of the screens either. That's again another big no-no. So yeah, that's what we had. And I actually had to explain that to one of the theatre managers last weekend, who was concerned around what we were doing around recording. So no recordings being made.
All right. The next one is, do you have to use a smartphone to enter the information, or can we enter it on a laptop, tablet, or desktop?
Well, I mean, if you were to carry a desktop into a movie theater, that would be pretty special. I mean, I think
they were referring to the possibility of writing it down and entering it after the fact.
Got it. Okay, thank you for clarifying that, Carl. So let me work backwards. So we don't want you to do that. We don't want to write the information down and enter it on a desktop, because for 2 reasons. Number one, you could make a mistake, and number 2, the data won't come back to us and therefore won't go back to the studio until you've traveled back home, which could be 10 minutes or it could be an hour, or you may have to do something else. And frankly, that's actually what some of our competitors have been doing, and the studios want us to try something different. And so in this instance, we do want you to use a smartphone or a device. I think I would say almost everybody has some access to a device in some form, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet. The thing I would say is that because of what I was describing with the automatic matching, we do need it to have either cell service or Wi-Fi. Now, the problem is you can't always rely upon Wi-Fi in a movie theater because it's not always available. And so if that's your only method, that's going to be an issue. The app does work if you don't have service, and that's what the manual mode is. There'll be some times when you're underground, or there'll be some places that just don't get very good reception. And so we do allow you to move into manual mode. The manual mode obviously presents the trailers for you, and you can pick from them. And if it's not in that list, you can then search in our app and find the movie. We do allow you to do that. We don't encourage you to do that. But if that's the only way you can get information in real-time mode, then obviously that's what we're going to do. But that goes back to my point earlier on around automatic versus manual. So I would say we do want you to use a smartphone. In the event where the app doesn't work, and that does happen, obviously it's software and it's a phone, we may authorize you to write the things down and then let us know, but that's a rare occasion, and we don't want to encourage that, because A, that means that the accuracy of the information is not perfect, and B, someone has to then key that information in, and that defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do. Carl, what's next?
Okay, we have here. How useful is this info to studios? Don't they already know which trailers are assigned to which theater?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, they know. Well, it's extremely useful. Trailers are the number one method by which studios feel that people. So let me start again. Trailers are the number one method by which people will choose which movie to go to watch. I can't remember the numbers. It's something like 43% of people choose trailers as a way of working out which movie to go to see. So hugely important. As a result, the real estate of the trailer pack before a movie opens is competitive. There's only 5, 6, 7, 8 trailers, and there may be 20 or 30 movies coming out, and so it's hard. And then the theaters can only pick certain movies to play, and so I don't profess to know exactly the methods by which they choose. It's probably based upon relationship, distribution, previous conversations, maybe some screw ups that have happened where people now owe each other, or money, or some other factors. But there is a commitment that gets made. That commitment gets shared with us, so we understand what a particular circuit and even a particular location has promised a studio, and we capture that information, and that information gets flagged up to us straight away when your data comes in, which is why it's so important when your data comes in, it needs to be complete. If it's not complete and we flag out compliance to be wrong, and we find that you were late and that you missed one of the trailers and the trailer did play, we look stupid. The studio potentially could look stupid because they complain about that to the theater, and they find that actually everything was fine and that the checker was late. And so that's why it's really important for you. That's why your piece of this jigsaw is so critical. And we are a team, and we need to give you the information for you to do your job properly, and we need you to perform what we ask you to do correctly, and then we need to then commit to making sure that we get your data back to the studios properly. So it's a chain, and if any of those links break, it's a problem.
Then we have, say a theater has 3 prints, but it plays on 6 different screens. Do you want us to check the 3 prints or the 6 screens?
That's a great question. This is my answer, and so there's a few factors to it. You find out the prints by speaking to the theater. We're employed by the studio to go and check the theater, and so by finding out the prints by speaking to the theater, we're immediately slightly compromising the integrity of our check, I think. So that's number one. Number two, the concept of prints is something that not everybody, not all of our checkers will be aware of. And if we were to base everything we did based upon the prints, that's a piece of information that isn't always accessible. And so our concept wouldn't easily work. It would break down in some cases. And so we have to work on the basis that we don't have the number of prints. And that's why we ask people to check every screen and every format, because that's the only way we can guarantee that we've done the right thing. We can demonstrate integrity back to our client, and we can check everything we need to check. You know, one of our clients had said, regardless of when we're compliant, we still want every screen checked, because if a theatre has played our trailer over, I'm going to make this up, but say they'd committed to play them on 2 of 4 screens, but actually they played them on 3 or 4 screens. The client wants to know. The client wants to know that they actually did more than they actually committed to, because that's useful information, as well as obviously knowing if they only played on 1 of the 2 screens, which is obviously not compliant. So the print problem, the print concept is something that I understand some of you know, because you've been checking for a while, and I think that's great. When we know that's happening, you know, we'll work with you, but we can't rely upon that because it wouldn't work for the whole of our community. And so that's why we ask you to check all of the screens and the prints. Now, sorry, the screens and the formats. But once we know a particular theatre is compliant and you still have screens to check, we might call you, or you might call us, and we may speak to you and say, look, you know, you're done. You don't need to check anymore. But I think we're a little way away off from that. So that's what I would say.
We have another tip. They said, look at your schedule beforehand, possibly write it down or print it out. And then so that way you can plan your route. And then also it lets you save time. It lets you see more trailers in a given amount of time, and then lets you get more bang for your buck, is basically by checking the schedule ahead of time, planning out a route, is the general gist there.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I just want to build on that. We don't want people staying at the theatre longer than they need to. You know, we're really grateful that you want to work with us, and we're grateful that you're giving up your time. And so, you know, that's one of the reasons why we're trying to give you as much information that we have to help you. But there's definitely an accountability that we want you to have, which is, you know, looking at the show times and planning that out. And what we try and do is look at the screens, look at the times, and see where they're bunched together, and see if you can, you know, capture as many of those things within a half-hour schedule. One of the best tricks is to know the runtime of the movie. If you know the runtime of the movie, if it's 2 hours and there's a time that's at 10 o'clock and then 10:30 and then 11:15, they obviously can't be in the same auditorium because it's a 2-hour movie. And so even if you've got a 10 o'clock and a 12 o'clock and it's a 2-hour movie, it's probably not in the same auditorium because they need to get people out, they need to clean it up and then start again. And then you've got the trailer pack.
Also, the trailers are not included in the runtime, and the trailers are an extra 20 minutes right there.
Great point, Carl. Yeah, absolutely. The trailer pack as well. So that will help you understand that those are probably screens you need to check. And those all go into the task count that we give you. And that isn't taking into account formats. So, you know, if you have any, if you have any questions about that, call us, talk to us, because we want to help you. And we'll walk you through your sheet if you need to. We'll walk you through your schedule, and we'll help you. I've done that today. I've done that about 12 times. You know, people have come to me and said, because as I said, today we sent out the task count on email to people who were assigned up until this morning. And so if you've got that, you know, we got some questions and we've answered them. And so, you know, hopefully that will help, and we'll continue doing that. But if you're not sure, just shout. I'd rather we help you rather than you guess.
And that number is 518-379-0347.
Yeah, thank you, Carl. That's our support line.
And scheduling.
All
right.
And scheduling.
Speaking of, when offered to do standees, I was asked to email, but I could never get email to work. How can I get assignments without email? I think that's a good transition because I just mentioned the phone line.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's Debbie. Hey, Debbie. Nice to hear your questions. And Debbie's one of our great checkers. And so I would say if you can't, if email isn't working, I'm not sure whether the email um, I'm not sure whether the question is email is too slow or you're worried that it's going into a vortex and you don't know what's happening. I would definitely call, as Carl has just said. And look, fundamentally, you can email the trailers line and you can email me. If there's something that's missing, I'm happy to pick it up and then pass it on to the right person. The ICAP, as I mentioned earlier, will be a way of you being able to go in and choose those assignments. The I in ICAP stands for installations. And so our install projects will be up there as well. It'll all work through your login. So it'll work through the same login that you have for the app. There'll be a single sign-on, and then it'll fire up all the information. And we'll build that up. So your payment capability will be in there. So you'll be able to see all the projects that you've done. So there's little to no issue around that. And obviously all the projects that you can get to. So we want to make sure that that's there.
All right. There's another tip. This person suggests bringing a clipboard or a written down with your. They say carrying a clipboard and dressing and looking professional, which I think is the very important part. Makes the theater staff and the manager let you know that you're there for business, and they'll deal with you faster and they'll deal with you more cordially. Which I don't know about the clipboard because not everybody has access to that, but I definitely think dressing and looking professional is a keynote.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Carl, that's a good thing to sort of segue into something. We definitely want you to. No one's asking you to dress up in a suit or a big jacket or something, but definitely go in looking like you're going to work. Because I think that it changes people's perception. You are there to do a job. You are there not representing yourself. You're not even representing us. You're representing the studios. Even if you don't necessarily know who those studios are, but that's who you're really representing. And so, go in and do yourself proud. We had a situation where somebody went in. They were wearing, they were dressed badly. They were messy. They had a backpack on. They had headphones on. They had their hoodie up. And they didn't look like they were going to work, and they got turned away at the theatre. And that actually went back to the studio, and so that was embarrassing. And we that's actually one of the reasons why we put some stuff into the FAQs. So just be aware of how you appear, but you are going to work.
Other than trailers, do you need any additional data like the Fathom Events promos?
So that's part of the ad. So there's two things I'd say. So yes is the answer. We have a whole ads program where we're looking at all of the pre-shows and all the ads coming there. During the trailer pack, and you'll have seen some of this recently with the stuff we did with Alita and a few other films, that some of the circuits have greetings, special greetings, and people want to know them. There's a special Dolby greeting or there's a special Cinemark greeting. And so some of those promos are specifically to be captured. And when we know about them, we'll let you know. And when we start to see them, it's interesting actually, when we start to see some of the early data come in and we can start to see greetings coming through, we send out a little broadcast, certainly to our team, to say, hey, listener, I'm seeing a Cinemark greeting. We keep track of that. And then we can tell the studios that something's happening. And it's good for them to know, especially if they see maybe another studio doing something specific. Because it helps them understand that maybe next time that they'll be able to do that, depending upon what the deal was. So that's where all of that information becomes very useful.
Okay.
What's next, Carl?
This person says, I've been checking for years with other, other divisions or other companies. You guys are new, relatively. How long have you been in business?
Right. Yeah. Good question. We've been going, I'm not sure whether you were on from the beginning, but our first sort of foray into this came about 6 years ago. And we were building our platform for a while. And then the sort of the pivot into the compliance component probably happened about 2.5 years ago. And we built the platform, and we've been going strong for about 18 months to 2 years, I would say. So well established, well known within Hollywood. We've got relationships with pretty much all of the major studios, whether it be around trailer checking or installations, and obviously with the ad companies as well. So well established. But yeah, we are new, and there are the other companies are much more established, and have got deeper relationships, deeper reputation, because they've been around for 10, 15, 20 years. But yeah, that's what we do.
Okay. Being a former app developer, will we be seeing some new updates soon? It would be, what are some new features coming up? It would be great to go back in each movie and click edit one last time before submitting the final step.
So definitely, want to keep the app being improved. There's as an app developer, and I think this is Chip who wrote this into Hey Chip. There's always a balance between making sure that you're building new features, but also fixing any bugs. And so, our development team is always constantly finding sort of something between that. There's that really annoying bug that we've got, which is error in connection. Some of you have had it. I was about to swear there, but I held myself back. But we're trying to find out what's causing that, because we know there's something that's causing that error in connection, and it isn't a connection error because you've got full service, you've got got the ability. So those are the sorts of things that take up our time to make sure that we can fix it. But I think we definitely want to be continuing to build it out. I would say that the point around editing the trailers, we've gone back and forth on this one, and we don't want you to go and edit the trailers after you've left the auditorium. And the reason for that is we find out a lot of information about what's happened in seeing the sequence of what's been captured and what you've changed. It's a little bit difficult to explain without an example, but if you've gone through and you've matched certain things, and then you've said that's the wrong trailer, we can see all of that. If you've gone and changed it to something else, we'll see that. If you then but we want to see that during the trailer pack. If afterwards you go out and start to change the trailers, it almost the fact pattern of what happened during the trailer pack changes, and when that happens, it's difficult for us to see what's really taken place. And so what I would say, and we give this as an option, maybe we need to make this clearer, is if you've double matched something, just put it in the comments, because we can see it. But if you were to delete something because you saw it double matched and it actually played twice, that would be losing a piece of information that's really crucial for us. There was a situation recently where a trailer played twice at one of the theaters, and we called up to find out what had happened, and that's actually what had happened. So that's my thinking on it right now. I'm not saying that's final, but happy to speak some more around it. But our feeling is we don't want you to change the trailers once you've left the auditorium, because that could lose what information we need.
All right. Let's see here. We have, sometimes there are quote unquote trailers before the actual trailers start in the commercials, such as the making of or interviews with cast or crew. And then also in the trailers, you have like the greetings from cast and crew. Do you want those as part of the trailer checks?
We do. Yeah. We definitely want that information. I think I may have answered some of this before, but we want to know everything that happens during the trailer pack. We even want to know, we had a situation with a client recently who the trailer should have been playing in 3D. It wasn't playing in 3D. Other trailers were playing in 3D. They had the trailers, another studio's trailer played in 3D with glasses, and then their trailer played in 2D. And so knowing all that information, that's why we just added that recent piece around, did you have glasses with the 3D piece? Because we want to know, and that isn't whether you're wearing glasses, but that was whether there were glasses handed out to the audience. Because if they start playing 3D trailers and they haven't given glasses out, then the experience is bad. And that experience is bad means that people aren't going to get the same experience that filmmakers wanted with watching that 3D trailer, and then that's a problem. So those are the sorts of things that we do want to know. We'll probably get more specific and more finessed about the 3D and the glass component, but but that's we want to capture as much as we can.
Going forward, what other projects or assignments other than trailers, ads, and installs can we expect for us checkers?
Yeah, great question. There's going to be a few different things coming through as we become more established and our reputation grows. More clients are coming to us with other things they want us to do. We had some stuff recently around setting up some event space with some of our checkers. There was something coming up, around interviewing, intercept interviewing, where you're actually asking people certain questions. We're going to be doing that with some of our technology. So there's going to be some new projects that will be coming through, and we'll keep you posted around that. The fact that we have this base that goes across the US and Canada gives us a capability that I think is interesting and quite powerful. And it may not be right for everybody, but if it is up your street, then we definitely want to make sure we can get you involved. So just look out for that, and there'll be certainly information coming out over email and over broadcast. And then again, back to the point about the ICAP, it'll be the website that you can go to get that information. What's next, Carl? Anything else?
That's everything I have so far. We're caught up on the live questions.
Great.
If there's any more, if you have any more in the comments, ask them now, or so ever hold your peace.
I mean, this is our
first. Only thing I would.
Oh, go ahead, Carl.
Sorry?
No, you go first.
Okay. I would just say, some of the questions we've gotten in the past would be like, do we have to do these on Friday, or can we do them late Friday, late Saturday? How is the timing an issue, and things of that nature? Yeah,
that's a really good question. Actually, that's an important one. The timing is critical. The studios want to get that information back as fast as they can. We want to get all of and our goal is to get all the information back to them on Friday. If we could do that, we could get all of the locations checked, all the data back to them. There's not much processing that we need to do once you do your jobs correctly. That information flows to us. We can check it and then send it straight out. And so ideally, we'd like to get everything back on the Friday. Now, there's circumstances that won't happen. Marvel is a perfect example. If someone was doing 17 screens and I saw someone write that they did 17 screens and they did do 17 screens, there's just no way you can get it all done. Especially if you've got two locations, you're going to end up having to split that. And you'll see that this weekend as well. Some of you are going to do things on Friday and some on Saturday. We don't encourage people to do things on a Saturday because we fear it will create a bad habit. And if people take the assignment for Friday and then just choose not to go Friday and think they can go Saturday, obviously we know it, we track it, and eventually we'll probably just remove that individual because we want people to go on the Friday. Now, we ask people if they're available on Fridays for a good reason, because we want to get the earliest show times on release day, because that gives the studio the maximum amount of time to fix things if they're not right. So that's a long-winded way of saying we want people to go on Friday. That's project day. There will be times we allow people to go on Saturday, like Marvel, and obviously rechecks can happen on a Saturday. We don't allow people to go on Sundays. It's a rare event when they do. We did allow it last weekend because of the amount of screens people were checking, but highly unlikely. And if we find that Sunday is the day you're actually going out for the first time, that will definitely count against you. And the way we do that is we keep track of the day people go out. And so there's another algorithm that we have as part of our model where each of you are tracked as to when you're going out and when you're completing your work. And so that will go in to form, how do people get perm assigned? Do they keep their assignments? And so we just want people to commit to doing something and doing that. And if that happens, everything is good. So that's what I would say.
We have another question. Say there's 12 screens at a theater that need to be checked. Could you split them? Would we ever assign, let's say one person wasn't available the whole day, would we ever assign one person to cover the morning screens and another person to cover the afternoon screens? Or could someone who signed up and wants to check it, could they bring a partner and maybe split the screens up between the two of them?
So we don't. Let me think about how to answer. We don't schedule people to split a location up from the outset, because the coordination of that between Fred and Mary, who don't know each other, and which screens they're going to do is going to cause a problem, and so they'll end up auditing the same location, and that's redundant. So we don't do that. We would allow people to bring a partner, because they themselves would then be controlling that individual. But the difference there between our competitors and us is that when you bring a partner with some of our competitors, you're just writing stuff down, and so it doesn't make a difference. With us, we need it to be captured in your device. And so we would say, if you wanted to bring a partner, we would want that person to be able to use either their own login, or you share a login, and that you're able to actually capture all the information. And so if you wanted to bring a partner somewhere, I would say, write into us, and let's talk about what that's going to look like, because we want to make sure that makes sense. We have got a situation. This happens with installations quite a lot, because on the installation side, people have a crew, and they'll own an area. We give them the work. They pass that on to the people that they own as part of their team, and we pay that individual, and he or she will then pass on the right amount of money that they've agreed on for the work. That person is responsible for all the quality of the work. In the same way, if you brought a partner, you're still accountable for the quality of the trailer check work that comes through. So we're happy to talk about that, and happy to make sure that our technology supports that concept. And we can see from there.
All right. We have trailer checks are on Friday. When are installs typically done? Are they done during or throughout the week, or is that typically a Friday thing as well?
Installations, Carl, was that the question?
Yes, installations.
Installations are not done on Fridays, for the very reason that Friday is release day. It's usually very busy, and there isn't space for people to sit down and start building stuff. It's a little bit like going into your supermarket. You don't often see all the shelves being stacked, because it happens at night when no one else is there, because they can get that stuff done quickly. Obviously, you see some shelves being stacked a little bit if stuff has run out, and so. In the same way, most of the installations get built, off cycle, not at night, but maybe on a Monday or Tuesday, sometimes on a Wednesday. It'll kind of just depend. Sometimes it has to get done just before release day. We've got a project coming up, and it needs to be up by Friday. If it needs to be up on Friday, we probably need to get it done on Thursday. And so, it'll just depend. A lot of the theatres don't allow installations to take place over the weekend, because it's just their busy time and there just isn't space. So it will depend on the project, but it's definitely not on the same day as trailer checking. So if you wanted to be a trailer checker and an installer, you'd easily be able to sort of segregate those two activities. And the other thing I'd say is installs generally have a longer duration, in that we may have 2 or 3 days to put it up, or we may have a week. Those project deadlines, we really want you to observe, because we commit back to the studios to make sure that we can provide that information back to them.
All right. Is there anything you want to add, Rakesh? Because we're all caught up on questions.
No, look, this is our first Facebook Live, and Carl and I talked about this earlier. Nicole also helped to set this whole thing up. We hope this was useful. There's so much that we want to share with you, because I said this at the beginning, and I'm saying we are a team. I've written this recently to a few people. If you're successful, we're successful. If you fail, we fail. And so we're not here to catch you out. We want to make sure that you can do the job. And if things aren't right from our end, then we want to fix them. We're not perfect. We will make mistakes. We're a technology firm with software and people, and those two things break. And so when they break, we promise we'll try to fix them, but we will come. I mean, we will come down hard on people who try to game the system, who try and tell us they've done work when they haven't done work. And I'm going to apologize up front if we end up coming across like that sometimes, because we've just come off a whole series of other conversations around that. So I apologize if we come across a little bit terse or harsh sometimes. But that happened today. It happened with someone today where they said that they'd done some work. We couldn't see that work had been done, and then we worked backwards, and that person had actually done the work. And I apologize to the individual, and that person is coming out and trailer checking with us again tomorrow. So we will make mistakes, but we're going to try and fix those as we go through. But we're all ears, and we want to hear from you. And so if there's different thoughts and different ideas, don't be afraid. And if you've got different ways of keeping the community together, let's talk about it. Post stuff up on the website, on the Movie Measure Facebook page. We want that to become an active source. We'll post more on here. If you like what you see, please leave a review somewhere. The app stores can always do with more reviews. A lot of people are put off because they don't see enough reviews, or the only reviews they see are issues that they've had with the app or with payments or something else. So if you feel okay and you want to leave an honest review, please go ahead and do so. I'm not asking it for it to be positive, just your experience. And so I think that's all I've got, Carl. Anything else from you?
I just want to thank everyone for the questions and comments, and the people who tried to answer the questions before we did, which helping each other out. That's great. Building a community. And thank you for all the questions, comments, tips, tricks, etc.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Thanks for joining, guys. And we'll speak soon, and good luck tomorrow.
Yes. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys. Bye.